How to fix red flashing screen with smooth motion in The Last of Us Part EI. Welcome back to Teknobalta. If you are experiencing a severe visual glitch, where your screen flashes red continuously while playing The Last of Us Part Roman 2, you are not alone. During our extensive hardware testing, our diagnostic team encountered this exact rendering anomaly, particularly on RTX 4000 series cards, like the RTX 4060 Ti. We discovered that this happens when players attempt to maximize performance by activating multiple frame interpolation technologies at once. Today, Teknobalta is providing the definitive, step-by-step technical guide to eliminate this red screen flickering. We will optimize your settings to restore flawless visual fidelity while maintaining high frame rates. Let us dive into the diagnostics and apply the permanent solutions. Our initial laboratory analysis revealed a critical conflict between smooth motion and DLSS Frame Generation technologies. When both are enabled simultaneously, the rendering engine suffers from extreme latency and frame pacing failure. This dual activation forces your base frames per second to plummet well below the required 60 FPS threshold, triggering the red flashing error. To resolve this immediate conflict, you must disable the smooth motion feature entirely. Navigate to the main graphics display menu within the game and toggle smooth motion to the off position. Our testing confirmed that isolating the frame generation workload prevents the rendering pipeline from corrupting the color output. After disabling smooth motion, you should strictly rely on the native DLSS frame generation setting. Activate frame generation in the display options to restore your performance back to the expected 80 to 100 FPS range. Teknobalta recommends keeping this as your sole frame interpolation method to guarantee system stability. For DLSS frame generation to function without visual artifacts, you must ensure your base frame rate never drops below 60 FPS. You can achieve this by lowering resource-heavy settings like volumetric fog or ultra-level shadow resolution. A stable 60 FPS baseline allows the AI generation to create clean, artifact-free intermediate frames. Next, we need to address Nvidia Reflex Low Latency, which is mandatory when using frame generation. Navigate to your display settings and ensure Nvidia Reflex is set to On or On Plus Boost. This configuration minimizes the system latency penalty introduced by generating artificial frames, ensuring smooth input response. If the red flashing persists after adjusting the in-game settings, our engineers strongly recommend a clean graphics driver installation. Download the Display Driver Uninstaller utility and reboot your system into safe mode. Wipe all existing NVIDIA driver files to eliminate any corrupted dynamic link libraries, causing rendering conflicts. Once your system restarts, install the latest NVIDIA Game Ready driver directly from the official website. Select the custom installation option and check the box to perform a clean install. This ensures that no residual shader cache data from the previous conflicting setup remains on your storage drive. Corrupted DirectX shader caches are a frequent culprit for localized color flashing anomalies. Press the Windows key, search for Disk Cleanup, and select your primary operating system drive. Check the box next to DirectX shader cache and execute the cleanup process to force the game to recompile its shaders from scratch. Teknobalta's analysis shows that conflicting configuration files can also override your manual in-game adjustments. Navigate to your saved games folder and locate the game's primary configuration directory. Delete the graphics preferences initialization file to force the engine to generate a fresh, default state configuration upon your next launch. Game file integrity issues can lead to missing textures that the engine interprets as red warning screens. Open your game launcher, right-click on the title in your library, and select the Properties menu. Run the File Verification tool to scan and replace any corrupted local assets. Third-party overlays often inject code directly into the game's rendering pipeline, clashing with DLSS. We highly advise disabling the Discord overlay, Nvidia GeForce Experience overlay, and Steam overlay during gameplay. Removing these background hooks ensures that the rendering engine has exclusive access to your GPU resources. Hardware-accelerated GPU scheduling is a Windows feature required for DLSS Frame Generation, but it can sometimes misallocate memory. Open your Windows graphics settings and ensure this feature is toggled on. If you recently updated Windows, toggle it off. Restart your PC, toggle it back on, and restart again to refresh the registry entry. Improper VSync configurations often cause frame pacing issues that manifest as screen flickering. Open the Nvidia control panel, navigate to Manage 3D settings, and find the vertical sync option. Set this to On in the control panel, but ensure VSync is completely disabled within the game's own display settings. Power delivery fluctuations to the GPU can cause sudden clock speed drops, leading to frame generation errors. In the same Nvidia control panel menu, locate the Power Management Mode setting. Change this parameter from Normal to Prefer Maximum Performance to guarantee stable voltage during heavy rendering loads. Monitor refresh rate mismatches can desynchronize generated frames from your display output. Right-click your desktop, open Display Settings, and access the Advanced Display menu. Verify that your monitor is set to its maximum native refresh rate, such as 144 Hz or 165 Hz. If you are utilizing a multi-monitor setup, background hardware acceleration on secondary screens can disrupt the primary render thread. Disable hardware acceleration in web browsers or chat applications running on your second monitor. This isolates your graphics card's processing power strictly to the game engine. Certain post-processing effects conflict directly with the temporal data used by DLSS. Navigate back to the game's graphics menu and disable film grain, motion blur, and chromatic aberration. These cinematic effects introduce visual noise that the frame generation algorithm struggles to interpret accurately. Hardware monitoring tools like MSI Afterburner or Riva Tuner Statistics Server can interfere with frame pacing APIs. Close these applications completely from your system tray before launching the game. Our testing showed that disabling these overlays drastically reduces the chances of frame generation corruption. Finally, an outdated motherboard BIOS can throttle PCIe bandwidth, starving the GPU of necessary frame data. Visit your motherboard manufacturer's support page and flash the latest stable BIOS version. Additionally, update your system's chipset drivers to optimize the communication between your processor and graphics card. Don't forget to follow Teknobalta for more.